Hi, everyone, and welcome to Women in AI at Code with Eve. I am Eve, a Microsoft AI MVP, and I'm so excited to bring you the second episode of the series. With these interviews, I'd like to take you to a journey where we explore the many different paths incredible women have taken into the world of tech and AI. We will talk about their challenges, their breakthroughs, their proudest moments, and the stories that shaped who they are. This series is for everyone, whether you're already deep into AI, just taking your first steps, or simply curious about the future of technology and inclusion. My hope is that these conversations will inspire you, spark new ideas, and remind you that there is no single right path into tech and AI. In just a moment, I'll welcome our guest, a very inspiring woman in AI who will share about her journey into tech and AI, which started outside the traditional tech path and grew into a career that now blends engineering, business, teaching, and AI adoption across organizations. She is passionate about helping more girls and women enter the tech community, and she brings insights from working with everything from development and security to medical AI innovation. So please give a warm welcome to Emilie. Welcome, Emilie. It is so great to have you today. How are you doing?
I'm good, and thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to be part of your show, and you're quite impressive yourself. Looking at all the awards here in the background, it looks really cool. I love that. So, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you so much. Just out of curiosity, which is your favorite part in my journey?
I love Lego, so I love the Lego flowers. I've been very impressed also with your Wonder Woman award up there. I think that's really cool. Your focus on enlightening other women and lifting them up and showing their accomplishment. And if I have to go back before I got to know you at all, what I noticed was the great work you were doing. So I remember in the past, I was very impressed when you were going to Ignite and doing part of the AI, and you were doing the show with Håkan. And I thought all the work you were doing was really impressive. And how did you get time for that? And then on a MVP nerd note, I've noticed how many emails that you've been writing to the product teams. And I've been very impressed. I've been like, hey, I'm just going to go over and see if Eva already asked this question over there. So you do a lot of great work. That's very impressive.
Wow, thank you so much. That warms my heart so much. Thank you. So, Emilie, this show is really actually about you. So please give a little introduction about yourself, your background, and a fun fact about yourself.
So I suppose the fun fact is that I'm very much a nerd at heart, and my journey probably started with my uncle giving me an old computer when I was 12 years, and I got to pick it apart and try to understand how computers work. And later on, I think the beginning of becoming a real nerd was probably playing World of Warcraft with some of my great male friends, because that also got me very interested in the whole networking and LAN and how is this actually working. So that's a few fun facts about me.
Okay, wow, about World of Warcraft, my eyes got a little sparkling immediately because I like that you were also a gamer. I didn't know that.
No, I don't have time anymore, to be honest. But there was a time when I played World of Warcraft. I have to be honest and say I didn't make it beyond level 64. That's been it.
That's already impressive as far as I know. That's cool. Well, good to know. Thank you for the fun fact as well. And yeah. If I know correctly, because we have also talked a few times before, but you didn't start your career in tech actually. So
no.
What actually brought you into technology and eventually into AI?
I think I've always been interested in creating solutions, and I probably always had a bit of a knack for creating technical solutions or making things work. So I grew up alone with my mom, and my mom isn't that handy with televisions or video recorders or internet. So at our place there was one person who could fix it, and I always had a bit of a mindset of like, I don't know, but I'll probably figure it out. So I was always drawn to it. And then first, growing up with a single mom, I honestly thought a lot about being able to economically take care of myself. So I started out studying economics. But while I was studying, I was living with a bunch of guys who were all studying IT, and I at ITU later on have gone on to work with data and machine learning at eBay and the Danish Politiken, start up different technical companies and work as IT architects. And so they were the introduction. And first was learning to play World of Warcraft and have LAN parties. And then they also introduced me to parallel processing from Berkeley. And I remember I thought it was super cool that you could connect all these different computers and then you could do calculations for the stars. And they showed me this and they created a huge geeky interest for the whole area. That was how I learned about SQL. So I think they were my nerdy role models. They probably don't see themselves as role models, but they were to me. And then what happened in life was that I met my husband. I moved to the Netherlands, and I actually got a job in a big retail chain that, for all the things in the world, they were selling bicycles. But I was doing first the accounting and controlling, and they had to explain the numbers and explain why we had to change things. And what do? Well, then you start pulling data out of the different systems, and then you try to treat Excel as a database. You figure out it isn't. You figure out how to build databases, figure out how to build integrations. And then I started having students come and write their thesis or student projects with me, and we would develop things like an algorithm that would make sure that we only ordered the 20% products that we sold the most, and we would block the rest. And we started integrating with our suppliers' ERP systems. So I think all of it came from this mindset from my childhood of, I don't know, but we can probably find a solution. And then finding people to work with. And then all the time, there's a business problem. Let's find a technical solution to solve it. And then from there, the company I was in thought it was a really good idea what we'd done with the integrations with the ERP systems at the back end. So they said, can you do a venture? And that became a startup on the side of selling all these products online. Because if you do a online front end, then we can do drop shipment, and then we can start selling to other segments. And that's what we did. First, it was 10,000 products, and then it was 20, and then it was 30,000 products. And then we were selling it to all across the globe, because bicycle products that you have in the Netherlands, you don't have in Japan or Australia or Canada. And so we were selling all of these odd things. But then with that came a lot of data. And I really understood that this was the future. This was the path I wanted to pursue. But there also was the learning of Apache Spark servers, or how do you do pricing optimizations, and how do you actually understand the behavior on your website. And all of that led me to the need for data modeling and the statistical modeling that's required. And that was why I then thought, okay, I taught myself a lot of things, but the stochastic calculus for doing real predictive models, I needed to go back to school to learn that. So then I did a candidate degree in econometrics and quantitative finance, which is a lot of stochastic calculus and a lot of statistical modeling. But basically, it's everything you need to get started with machine learning. And I also learned how to code. Back then it was in R. We don't use that much anymore, but that was what we were coding in then. And when I then finished my degree, I really wanted to learn best practice. And I thought, okay, consultants, they know. So if I go out, I become a consultant, then I'll learn best practice. So that's why I tried. And then I started out working very much with financial data, but then it became also customer related, data warehousing, teaching, both for planning and analytics, and then Power BI. And then it's been a whole journey from there. So that's how it started, about, what is it now, 10 years plus ago, when I got into consulting. Yeah.
What a journey, really. I like that you mentioned R as a programming language. I remember that was also a shining star in the beginning of my journey as well, I think. I remember we have had some sessions about looking at what are the differences between R and Python, and putting them into a battlefield, fighting for their own performance and own cool configurations and such.
Yeah,
and
it was good.
And then which part of the journey was the moment when AI clicked for you really and became something that you wanted to go deeper into? Was it the calculus part, which one of my favorite areas, by the way, or those calculations with the stars? Which one was the favorite?
So when I did the startup, it really dawned on me how data was going to change how our society worked, and how tech was going to be at the forefront and going to become a controlling part of our societies. So that kind of thinking started back then. When I did my candidate degree, I definitely saw the strength in knowing these models and stochastic calculus for algorithms and all the engineering. So I'm very glad I learned all the engineering math. I wanted to then do machine learning, because that back then we were talking a lot about data science, machine learning, and algorithms, and AI was only in its baby steps. You know, it was mostly AI then was computer vision. We had some NLP, but it wasn't that big. So I think I was interested in this area, and the moment it really clicked for me was when I went to MIT. And if I just have to go back, then I joined what is now Fellowmind, which was one of the biggest Microsoft partners in Denmark. I did a lot of trainings and a lot of work, and they rewarded me by nominating me to Berlingske's Top 100. And as part of the gift, I also got a minor in machine learning and AI at MIT. And when I went there at campus, the first thing that I was very puzzled about was, why was there so many pilots? So there were pilots from the military of South Korea, from the Middle East, from Austria. And I like, first, I just didn't understand why we had so many military people there, until this lead data scientist from Disney started explaining how they were using machine learning to control the drone shows and all of the colors on the drones. And I think that's when I was really like, oh, now I see why this is going to be so impactful. But this of course, is back in 2017, 18.
Mm-hmm.
So it's come a long way. And we had a professor that was also incredibly inspiring called Regina Bosley. And during my work, I've kept following what she's doing, because she's really been all over, from first improving how AI and computer vision can understand mammographies for cancer patients, and how you can improve the accuracy and find cancer much earlier, also in different ethnicities. But she's also been working on things like fake news and improving algorithms. So in so many of my projects, I've been able to go back and look at her papers and her research, and she just keeps being a very inspiring person. So I'm very lucky I got to have her as an educator.
That's a beautiful story, and very exciting with the Disney drones and all that. It's really cool. I wish I could have seen that.
Yeah, I think so. The professors was amazing, but I learned so much also from all the people who were in the class, because at that time the US was a lot further with AI and machine learning than when we were in Europe. So just hearing how like Walmart was using it in their apps to predict what people were going to buy next, and Disney for changing the queues, so changing the flow of people around the park so that it fitted with how many people could be in the attractions, and also having an influence on how many people were at the different food restaurants at times. That was just very fascinating.
Yes, it is fascinating. I remember those Walmart stories as well when I was learning machine learning. Yeah. Yep. And you have also mentioned some other learnings with Apache Spark and the website's behavior and so on. And I was wondering, which was the biggest learning curve for you, and how did you push through that?
I found my master's to have been what I would say was mentally the toughest. But that was also because I, at the time, had a family. The kids was back then, well, Daphne was 13 and Willem was 16. So I had a family, and we had one company, and then we had the startup, and I was working online to manage the startup and all the employees in the Netherlands. And luckily I could do that because I could just see what everybody was doing and we could have online meetings. But I was in Denmark and I had to fly back and forth every 2 weeks to manage it. So doing that while learning stochastic calculus, and I hadn't had calculus since high school. So it was quite the, it was really shaking up my brain. And the only way that I managed to learn all of the math, because some of it you would have like a book that was pages that was this long, and the whole page was just calculus, nothing but calculus. And Khan Academy was my savior. So I learned all the math I needed and refreshed all the math and the stats with Khan Academy, and I would have been absolutely screwed without online learning. So I think that was the moment when I started really utilizing fully online learning. I'd always Googled, I'd always use YouTube, but that was the start of being able to teach myself anything.
And now you're working with medical AI at Ambu AS. This is an area I was always very interested in. But what excites you the most about building AI in the healthcare space?
So for me, some of the very inspirational stories has actually been what they're doing currently in India. We often forget how many people are in India and how big a country it is.
Yeah.
So, they're coming close to more than 1.8 billion people. It's a huge country. It's as big as Europe. And in the rural areas in India, it's very hard to get a doctor's appointment. And of course, that leads to both people getting the wrong medication or not getting any treatment. And so it's quite inspirational to see how in India, they have created these AI doctors or AI hospitals where you can either use an app or you go in and you get a full scan. And then a few hours later, you could get a report. And then the report tells you what should be the next steps and what medication you should have. And we think it's a good eye-opener for how much life can be improved, how much our health can be improved by the right use of AI. And when I say the right use, of course, the tricky part is that if we share our health data, it can also be misused. But in India, they have made some government frameworks and legislation so that you can work with the data, but it's especially from federated models, so that it should be kind of hard at least to recognize who's the person behind it. But you can learn from all of the healthcare data in India. And this is providing healthcare on an improved standard of living on a scale that couldn't have been imagined before. So for me, that is one of the very inspiring examples. Of course, it can also be used the wrong way, but there are many examples for AI becoming even better than doctors in diagnosing. The first examples has been from radiology and mammographies, where it can actually read the X-rays or the mammographies better than doctors and find the issues, because, well, an AI model is never stressed. It's always focused on the task. It will never get tunnel vision the way the doctors can when they are stressed. One example has been a story of a man who he is in a car accident and he comes in and he has a scan, and all they're looking at is his neck and his back, that nothing's wrong. And doctors are happy, nothing's wrong. They send him home and he's feeling terrible and he keeps coming back. And it turns out that he has a huge crack in his skull, but the doctors were only looking for any damage to the neck or the back. Whereas if you have given the imagery to an AI, it won't be looking for something specific. It won't have that tunnel vision. It will actually be able to look for anything in the picture. We also know that stress and depression is a huge problem among doctors because they're overworked, and in many places there's simply too few. So the possibility of both helping people to get a better life, getting better health, and helping doctors and support them, I think is very inspirational.
And it is, and I think that excites me the most as well, that it's like helping others using tech and AI, and not just helping patients, but also doctors and nurses and caretakers for that matter. For example, some of those projects that are made for people who are helping people who need some home care. And those are also very helpful. And it's not just helping the patients themselves, but also supporting the people who are in healthcare. Yeah.
Yeah. Everywhere in the world, we have too few doctors and too few people in healthcare.
Yes.
And we have aging populations. So it's a super important area.
It is, for sure. So thank you so much for sharing, Emilie. I would like to navigate to a different angle now, which I think you have mentioned already, but I'd like to focus a little more on AI adoption. And you also know that AI adoption involves security, data protection, legal considerations. So when you start working on a project, how do you get started with designing these projects? You are now a consultant as well. And so how do you navigate these regulations, security questions, or these when you start on a project?
So it's something I learned along the way. And here I would say the leaders that I had back in the days at Fellow Mind has played a big role. I was lucky to work under a guy that maybe some of you know called Søren Søndergaard Poulsen, and he was very focused on adoption. So I learned a lot about, how does the brain work, human behavior, and how does that play into whether or not we take products into our everyday work and our habits. And on the other hand, there also was the now CTO of Fellow Mind, Henrik Kip, and he taught me about ISO 20001, about security and governance, especially on the Asia platform, the beginning back then of PureView, and how to think about governance. And so we did a whole webinar series, which became my first way of sort of learning through sharing on, how do you adapt to GDPR? How do you adapt to different regulations? What tool do we have to work with? And over time, I suppose that has turned into a mental framework where I sort of have a process where I go through a certain list of questions I ask when we start a project. Today in Ambu, it's very formalized. People have to make first their business case. We ask a set of questions about, what data are we working with, where is it stored, who can be looking at it. And then we ask a set of questions that has to do with AI regulation and this too. And then only after that, we look at having it approved and how are we then going to design the architecture to meet the requirements. I feel like it's different hats you take on. So first there is the hat that thinks about the solution creating value, asking all the right questions for the requirements for that. Then there is the hat of, okay, what laws will apply in this area? What do we need to check off? Then is there any standards I need to consider? What I need to check out? And then lastly, okay, so how do I find all the technical tools to make this work? And of course, today, when you work in AI, you get help from AI. So I have different agents that help me on each of these areas. And I've created agents for the business users that come in. And I'm like, okay, that's great. You got a case. Here's an agent. You talk to this agent about your case. You talk to this agent about the requirement. And then you talk to this agent about the security questions and the data questions. And that's how we do it.
But that's so smart that you built different agents for different areas of knowledge. That's also... Are they also able to communicate with each other, so can support you also in your business decisions and some technical questions as well?
I have them very much apart. I'm getting better and better at having the multi-agent together. Mm-hmm. You have to have really strict guardrails and stop functions in order for them not to use a million tokens. So that's sort of part of the trick that you always have to work on, because they are stochastic parrots, and in some instances, some models are optimized towards engagement, which means the more engagement, the better. So they'll just keep running. So you have to think carefully about how you set them up when they get to talk to each other, and having an orchestrator that can stop them.
Yeah, okay. That's really cool that you're still learning and trying to build these things yourself. I was wondering, what does a typical day look like for you? Because you're navigating across engineering and business. So first of all, how do you balance those two? in your role? Like, do you, for example, you get a project and you spend like 2 days on solutioning, I'm just saying something, and then out of the 5 days, 2 for solutioning, and then 3 for then architecture design, and then get into development, and then you're like putting on different hats every time you change the scope, or how does that work?
So in an ideal world, I would be able to plan my week that way.
Yeah.
But being that, there's 5,000 employees in Ambu, and there is only me as a leader, I'm the bottleneck of all the things. So I shift my hat pretty much every hour. Real deep thinking architectures or development mostly takes on outside office hours, because that's when nobody's pinging me with questions. So let's take a day like today. So it's very different. So today I started at 8:00, and then I was starting out doing training for our ESGs and sustainability teams on both prompting and creating agents. When I was done with that, my next up was our finalizing our process for approving MCP servers. Like, how do you figure out if an MCP server is secure and can be approved for work? So what do we look like? How do we do the step-by-step guide? And how do we turn that into a process and a knowledge article so everybody knows how to do this? And then from there, I was finalizing our Foundry setup. We had some problems with some quotas. I had to check all the services were working and talk to some of the consultants that had been involved, and then plan the next steps for the meetings for that. And then our QA, so quality assurance, have hired or promoted somebody to be the AI lead. And he wanted to understand, okay, now he had learned to work with the tools in the Power Platform and Copilot Studio. What was the next? What would it take for us to collaborate? And he wanted to get in and work on the Foundry service. And I had to explain, okay, have you worked in Asia before? Okay, you haven't. Then I need you to take all these learning paths to actually learn the fundamentals of Azure. Then you need these learning paths to get the basics of Foundry. These things are easy. These costs can be more challenging to learn. And then, by the way, we need to get a budget, and that budget we need to get from our AI Executive Forum, which is the C-level of Ambu. So, and you only have like less than a month before the next meeting. So we need to prepare all of these documents before that date in order to get you the budget. And then here's the agents you should be talking to so that we can get that done. And then I ran off to the board meeting that took a bit longer than I had expected, and explained and demoed to them how to use agents that I had created with the Claude Code and GitHub Copilot for creating updated consolidation of company ownerships, doing due diligence, doing automated ESG reporting, and creating a Rack chat. That was the fastest Rack chat I've ever created.
That's cool.
So that was my day today. So my day is very much between hands-on debugging, doing development, doing architecture, doing a lot of interactions with security and legal. And then I basically have agents for the project management, and I just check the documents and send them out.
But you seem to be enjoying this so much.
Some days.
Yeah.
I think I have good and bad days like everybody else.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So next to your job, you have taught and mentored a lot of people. And I can't remember when exactly, but you even earned an RD nomination. Yep. Congratulations again, by the way.
It's been 4 years ago.
It's been 4 years ago, but congratulations again, because it's a great achievement. And especially the story behind it. I like that very much too. If you want, you can share that.
Yeah, so I had never planned to become an MVP or an RD. Somehow that seemed a bit far from me. But then I was suggested by one of the employees at Microsoft to fill out the employee or what do you call it, forms for applying. And the reason why I was asked to do it was because I had done a lot of research collaborations. So I didn't quite cover that. But then during my years in consultancy, I've also been working with different universities doing research, and of course been using Microsoft products. So the first was back when I was at FellowMind, where I was at MIT, but we also did some other research programs on machine learning. Then I got to WPP, which is one of the world's biggest media and marketing companies. And here we were doing some research with DTU on how could you actually do automated ESG reporting. Back then, that was harder. It was machine learning that would go in and look at transaction data, figure out what scope it was, and then what would the CO2 be and what would the water consumption be. That was really complicated to do back then. I can laugh at it a bit now because now I'm doing it really fast with Claude Code, but the thinking is the same. And we were also doing research with MIT Sloan for creating price elasticity models. That was then the tools we were using was both Data Lake and Power BI and Databricks, and combining these and machine learning service. And we also did some optimization algorithms. So that was what we were doing there. And then when I went on from WPP to the Norwegian company Mr. Nextbridge, I was very lucky to join in both on some of the work they had done with International Red Cross on how to train a bird model to understand all the different reports, and thereby being able to use the data from the written reports to create dashboards where you can really understand what goes wrong when there's a flood, or what is really important when there is a hunger strike. And all of this had just come from written reports. And then we had another one with a university also in Norway, where we were looking into how can you do automated fact checking with machine learning. Because as we have AI, we have more deep fakes, we have more fake news, we have fake text, but how can you actually recognize them? So how can you take news pictures and look up into databases if they've been seen before or where it would be in the world? How can you take the text and find the facts in there and look up in fact databases and figure out if it's correct or not correct, and then give scores back? So that was a very cool and interesting research project we were doing, where we were using both research papers from my former professor, Regina Bosley, but also from Isabella Augenstein in Denmark, and then turning it into how can this be actual solutions that can be used to fight fake news. And then from there on, I went on to work for Hempel. And here we were working with DTU on how, and ITU, by the way, on how to using AI models for chemical simulations. So how can we actually create a greener paint? But in essence, we were starting out with looking at some of the catalysts because they're the most toxic for the environment, your skin or your eyes. How can we have greener catalysts by using AI to optimize the formulas that go in and get a lot of recipes out that we could use? So I'd done all these different research projects where I was combining using Microsoft technology because I knew that really well, and then with reading research papers and doing new research together with universities.
That is really interesting. And you were teaching people during your PhD as well, right?
So I never done a PhD. People keep asking me why I haven't. I should have, but I haven't done that yet. Maybe one day, who knows? But also been doing a lot of teaching and training. I think that's more what earned me the MVP. So when I was at my first consultant job at EG that became DXC, I was back then training on the IBM suite of tools. Then I went to FellowMind, and then first I was training people in Power BI, and then I was teaching in the rest of the Power Platform stack, so Power Automate and Power Apps. And then I got to train people in machine learning service. And then when I went on from there, I was also training people in Data Factory when I got to WPP, training in Azure DevOps, training in machine learning service, of course, still training in Power BI and everything that goes there, and Databricks. So I don't remember how many trainings I've done anymore, but I have done a lot. Last year, I know that I did more than 50 trainings within the last year, and it's been the same every year. So it's been a lot of trainings in Microsoft products.
And that's, wait, that's trainings to people, not trainings
So it was trainings to customers, then it's been training to colleagues and teams.
Right.
And then it became online trainings, but I especially done that for Danish IT and organizations. And that's the one thing that I promised myself. I should start a YouTube channel with doing trainings, and I feel a bit bad for not having done that before.
It's actually a good idea to do, because maybe a lot of people, and I'm not sure, but I think a lot of people are going online to study first before they sit back in the classroom learning in person. And I also think that a lot of people don't know how to get started. So you said you're also helping organizations and individuals as well to get started even with AI, but also to learn new tools, learn about Microsoft Stack and so on. So how do you think is the best way to get started?
You have to start by being curious and wanting to solve a problem, because that way you'll remember it. And then I also watch learning videos. So I have like a learning curriculum for the next month. I need to learn about Amazon Bedrock, and I need to improve my skills in Cloud Code, and I need to be even better with Playwright. So I keep learning. And what I do is that in the morning when I go to the gym, I put on learning videos. This can be YouTube, like a whole series that I make for myself, or it can be LinkedIn Learning in some cases, or it can be Udemy Learning. So I start by watching them, because once I've watched them, my brain will start working on having a pattern of what's going on. And I also have the mental image of what it will look like. And then I go and I start trying doing it myself. So this is how I do it. And of course, it would make sense if I would help other people do the same.
It's magical that you can listen and focus on videos while you're doing workout.
But I think I learned that it's kind of a hack that people always think that when you watch the videos, you have to be 100% focused. But I noticed over the years that when I was learning things and picking up things, it wasn't necessarily because I was paying 100% focus. It was just the things going on around me. So the way I learned languages was just being somewhere, and I was hearing it, and then I picked it up. And I noticed also when I was sitting around colleagues, I learned what they were doing because I was hearing what they were doing, and it sort of just came in. And I realized that with videos, I could do the same. So I do the dishes, I'm going around cleaning up, I'm on the gym, and then I don't care that I don't catch 100%, because I know that my brain is just getting started on recognizing that pattern.
Mm-hmm. But everyone studies differently. For example, for me, what works best is if I sit down and read a lot, and I kind of make notes, writing, not typing, because somehow my brain works much better if I write it down myself as well. And I also, yeah, for me that works better. And I also started the year with putting together a learning path. So let's see how will that look like by the end of the year. But enough of me. You also have said...
I think it's a very good example, because it is actually proven with research that when you write things down, even if you don't write it, but you just pretend to do it with your hand, it will be layered in your memory much better. Yeah. So I think you have a very good approach there.
Oh, I have one more idea that I can share here. Is with me, lists are working very well. Counted lists. Making sure that... I know there were 9 different things I should remember. What was that? So yeah. Yeah. All right. And
memory trick also. Yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes need tricks for some specific things, because it's sometimes, you need to remember important stuff, but importance is also a little subjective sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
My brain definitely has its own way of saying
right? Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. Okay. And you have also said, when we have talked last time, that you are really excited to see more girls and women join the tech community. So what do you believe would truly help close the diversity gap?
So one thing I noticed when I've worked with and hired younger women is that often they have a own mental dialogue where society has taught them, oh, well, I'm a girl, so I'm not very technical, or, I'm probably not as good at this as the boys. And it's one of the things that makes me the most sad is when I start making them aware that they're saying this and they have this inner dialogue, and that it isn't, first of all, it's not true, but that society has somehow affected us to have that mindset. And so unless we have more female role models out there, like Regina Boysley, like you, Eve, like who else can we think of that the professor Isabella Augenstein in Denmark is fantastic, but we also have MVPs like Jonah, who is showing us that it is absolutely possible for women to do this and rock it. And I think that's important for girls to start having a different self-view and a different confidence in being able to solve technical problems. Adding to this, women just have a different perspective of the world, both on ethics, empathy, bias for obvious reasons. And so I think women can add so much helpful innovation to the world where we're really using AI for good, rather than, well, I'm just going to say pornography and profits. So I believe that AI can become a tool to improve the world to a greater degree if we have more women in the field.
I think there was a study at some point about that why women are so fitting to the field of analytics and AI. It's because the brain of humans are different for men and women. And women brain is specifically fitting for analytical problems.
All right. I mean,
I wanted to look that up before we talk, but
finding patterns, they're detail oriented, risk averse, so they don't want to make mistakes. Yeah, I can definitely see how that would fit.
Yeah, I will find that study and I will show you later.
Sounds very cool.
And if we are talking about wise people, other wise person told me that whatever we learn today, it is the history for the children of tomorrow. So how do you stay up to date and keep learning without feeling overwhelmed of the so many new information that comes up with AI every day?
I've definitely been overwhelmed. And I've had moments where it's like, not today. And then I remind myself that, you have to have a growth mindset, and you have to keep your curiosity, and you have to learn because you think it's interesting and fun, and not because you have to. So I've also learned to accept that I don't know everything. I can't follow all the news. I mean, it's not possible. So I follow what I think is interesting and useful. And when I'm learning, I try to become better and better at sharing that learning. And then you already heard my learning hacks. I watch videos while I'm doing practical stuff. Honestly, I also do it sometimes to hack myself to do boring stuff. Like, I don't really like cleaning or cleaning up or doing the dishes. But then if I'm watching something that's interesting, I don't think too much about the dishes, and then it doesn't bother me. So it's sort of also a hack to get myself to do things. And I could never be on a stair walker or, a treadmill for 30 minutes without any entertainment. So it's also a way of getting me to do stuff that I have to, and it's good and healthy. And then my brain is entertained with something new and novel.
There is this AI skills navigator of Microsoft, and you can also put together, with the help of AI, a learning path full of videos. You can just define that it has to be only videos. And then you can build your own learning path that you are mostly interested in.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Try it out.
What's it called one more time?
It was AI Skills Navigator. I will put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, put that one in. That's very good. That's useful for everybody to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I will share it in a second. Yep, so this is the one.
Because, very honestly, a lot of my learning is also from the people that I know and follow on LinkedIn, and whatever they post about, I think, oh, that's interesting, and I get curious, and then I go and try to figure out and learn more about whatever it is I've seen lately.
Yeah. And when you look ahead into the future, is there something in the future that excites you when it comes to AI? What excites you the most?
So, you often, when you have to learn how to handle stress, they teach you, instead of saying this is stress or scary, then you have to frame it as excitement. So I'm going to try to frame this as excitement, because I both find AI to be exciting and inspirational, and I also find some of it a little scary. On the positive side, I think agents can go in and do a lot of the work we find to be boring. I can also see that it's a little too exciting. All of the jobs that they could take over, and all of the security challenges that they could make. So I think it's really important with women in the AI field to keep us on track doing something that's beneficial for humanity and for society.
Yeah.
Because I'm not that excited about things like ChatGPT or OpenAI wanting to use AI models for creating personalized porn, nor the other inventions that's come in that direction from Elon Musk. So I hope we can take that into a better direction. What is really exciting is what AI can do in the field of medicine, and especially in biochemistry, for doing specialized drug development that are tailored to patients, and also the potential of doing that for groups of patients that are so small that it wouldn't normally be it wouldn't be profitable to do for big pharma, but because AI can do it so much faster and efficiently, then we can start also getting medicine or treatments for diseases that would otherwise not be a priority. So these are things that are really exciting. It's also very exciting how AI can be used for cancer treatment. It's exciting how it can be used to motivate better health, better lifestyle choices, better learning. These are interesting and exciting things for me.
Yes, and I also agree that there are so many people who are coming with various concerns like trust, security. Even though the excitement is here, AI can do so much good things for people, but if someone is not taking enough care, then AI can do harm as well. So it's important
Absolutely.
to consider that when we build stuff. And that's what you also pointed out earlier, that it is important to take care of the humanity with our creations eventually. Yes.
Yes. And I think the recent examples from Molbot, Cloudbot, whatever we're supposed to call it, it's this hot excitement of everything it can do for us, and then it's also the like negative excitement of all the security risks that it exposed,
Yeah.
and the worst of AI agent behavior when they go together. So yeah,
Yes.
AI is this double-edged sword. In the past, in keynotes, I've called it dancing with the devil, because it's both, you have to utilize this enormous power, and it can do an enormous amount of good for humanity and for the world, but it's not without its risks.
Yeah. Emilie, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your stories, and your thoughts with us today. Do you have anything else you would like to share with the audience? You know, this is the space for advertisement, or to tell something that you feel important to tell and we haven't discussed it during the interview.
So you sent me a very good question that was about challenges in my work life, and I think it's very important to share and let everybody know that I have met pretty much all the cliche challenges that you can make. And to such an extent that my friends often say you should write a book, or we should make a television show about your life, because you've been through all of it. So it's not been rosy. It's very much been about even if shit happens, how do you get back on your feet, and how do you learn to dance in the rain and have a growth mindset where you keep getting back on your feet and overcoming, and that makes you stronger. And I want people out there to know that you can do that, and it's a mindset, and no matter how other people behave or what you encounter, you can still keep learning and keep getting better and living an amazing life. So I want people to know that it's not necessarily easy, but if you enjoying what you do and you love what you do and you keep learning, it can be a very enjoyable and fun ride anyways.
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Emilie, again for joining us today and for sharing all these awesome insights with us. If anyone would like to reach out to Emilie, you can do that through LinkedIn. And feel free to ask questions from her because she loves to answer every questions you may have.
I
And
try my best. Sometimes I'm a bit slow. You don't want to see my
yeah, right.
inbox right now, but I try to get around to it.
I think that happens with all of us, I think the answers will eventually get to you, so no worries. And so, Emilie, thank you so much again for joining. I hope you had fun.
I did. Honestly, time flew by. I was like, wait, time's already up. So that's a really good sign. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much again, Emilie. And I hope to see you soon again somewhere. I can't wait to see where your journey takes you next. So keep us updated, please.
I will.
Cool. Then thank you again. As always, the double mute made some fun with me. So this was a really interesting conversation and I can't wait to continue, but I need to wait a little longer because our next Women in AI session will be in March on the 18th. And I'll be welcoming Ivana Tilka. She worked at Microsoft earlier, but today she is an AI MVP and travels the world to inspire and teach others. She will take us through her own path into AI as well, the moments that shaped her career and the lessons she has learned. So I hope you are excited about her story as well. And now let me switch over here. There we go. So please keep an eye on the social media for more info about the session coming up. And I will share the exact date and time there. So thank you all again for being here and supporting this community. Remember to subscribe. And you can subscribe on Twitch and YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn. And if you would like to watch the session again, you can do that on YouTube. And you will also have a chance to watch it and listen to while on your way on Spotify again. So I will also put the links to the chat. And with that, I am so thankful for you to join today. And I hope you had some fun and see you next time. Bye.